exactly what it says, community health center. Yes, we're about promoting the health of our patients and the general health of the community, but we're also about promoting the community at large, community outreach. We are a nonprofit. All of the money that comes into Genesis Healthcare goes back out to the patients and back out to the community. We're run by a policy-making board of directors. The day-to-day operations is administered by an administrative team as far as operations go. Now, with that being said, Genesis started as PD Healthcare, and I think, Mark, was it 1974 or 5?
74.
When Joe Matthews and Jim McGinnis started the practice. It went on till about 1991 or so, and then it became a rural healthcare center, which is a for-profit rural healthcare center. Then in 2010, we became a community healthcare center, which means we are now nonprofit. We had an economic impact study done, I think 2 years ago, and it showed that there was a $9 million positive impact to the community, based on the fact that we were there. So we've been going along for several years, and we're in a building that was originally built in 1974, and it's been added on to several times, as you all know. We are finally in a position, and we have the financial means to add on to that building and renovate and bring it back to or bring it up to something that we can be proud of, something the community can be proud of. So with that being said, Mark, what I want you to do, I'm going to let Nick Morgan, our construction manager, talk to you about the building that we're going to build, and then I'll fill in.
Okay. My name is Nick Morgan. I'm a construction manager for Genesis. Just want to talk a little bit about the new building. So the existing building now stops in this area here, and there's a warehouse that the new building is going to take the place of. And what we're trying to do is kind of integrate some of the older historic details from downtown Darlington, the brick, some of the textured panels, precast panels, and keep all the textures real neutral and similar to what we already have in town. The building will be backed up 24/7 by a generator, the whole building, the x-ray, the lab, all the nurses' areas. So if there's any crisis in town, you know, a catastrophe like a hurricane or a tropical storm comes through, everybody has access to come get services that they need them. So state-of-the-art building that I think the whole community will be real proud of.
And Nick, just for clarity, because I get confused looking at these pictures, I don't know if y'all do. This is from a perspective, if you were standing at the corner of Mr. Rennie's house. You were standing in his yard.
Yeah, Casher Street's on this side,
Right.
on the far side of the property.
Right. And then Oak Street runs behind
On that side.
the building.
Say that again, please.
Oak
Yes,
Street, Nick, walk over here with us so they can see. Well, it's the same thing on the screen. Walk over there. Oak Street runs behind, would run behind the building.
Oak Street's this way and Casher's this way.
You intend to build the building right on the sidewalk as Dr. Cohen did? It's an 8-foot,
We will, you know, I'm sorry, what's your name?
my name is Dr.
Dr.
Hobbs.
Hobbs.
I'm
sorry
sorry,
to meet you.
But our code say in this town that you build it 8 foot back, and he
Yeah.
has put it right on the sidewalk, and it's called quite a distraction here in our
Yeah,
town.
you know, we have gotten to that part of the planning, and I really don't know what the status is of that part of it. But it will be built onto the existing building.
Right on the sidewalk, which is against our codes, it should be 8 foot back.
Well, commercial codes in town in the city of Darlington is up to the sidewalk. We've verified that on several occasions with the zoning department.
So in
Because
other
most-
words, it doesn't matter what the people here think, you're gonna do what you wanna do.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Not at all.
What it sounds
Not at all. Not at all. We've, the buildings that we're currently in were permitted.
Commercial zoning, you're not in commercial zoning.
This,
You're in residential / commercial zoning, which does have setbacks and does have requirements that are not on the square.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And you're trying to get commercial zoning currently, which would allow you to build this building.
Please let Genesis finish first and
Yes,
then
ma'am.
ask the questions, please.
Yes.
Let them finish first.
Go with the next slide. All right. With this new building, we're gonna be able to add new jobs. We're gonna be able to bring more dollars into the community. With those jobs, we're gonna be able to add additional services. We're gonna be able to increase the services that we currently give and make them available in a more efficient and proficient way to the customers we have. We'll be able to extend services to new patients. And overall, we have estimated that the economic impact on the community will probably double over the impact study that we did 2 years ago. Like I said, this is it's a community health center. It's not about Genesis. We're a nonprofit. We are here to promote the community. We're not here to harm anybody. We're not here to do anything that is going to cause difficulty. It's all about bringing the community up and bringing new services to bear. Go ahead. With that being said, Helen, do you want to go over what we're...
I will, and this might address some of your all concerns. If you look up at the screen and you see in the purple, I don't know if I know how to work this.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm sorry, my name's Sally Carroll. I'm
Are
the
you electing anyone on the board here?
I am. I'm actually John Milling's daughter. I think he's going to be recusing himself from the vote, if that makes everybody feel a little more comfortable. Just put that out there. So anyway, I'm also the compliance officer for Genesis. And so if you look at this outline right here, you'll see that this is the property that Genesis owns. This right here is the Seegers property that I'm circling around. This in the middle is our current parking lot. And this property right here that's owned half OR and half core commercial is our current clinic. So that's the real reason why we're here. We have one building that's zoned two different things. I believe the setbacks that people are concerned about, the part that's core commercial obviously is within the allowed setback limits. The part that is OR currently, I believe variances were gotten to have those setbacks set. So the issue that we really have is we have a clinic on two different zone pieces of property. When we do the addition, the part that's right here is also office residential. So without rezoning the property, we would go office residential or commercial, office residential with one building. These properties right across the street on Oak Street are core commercial. Everything else is office residential right here, but there are core commercial zone properties that are already on Oak Street. So the real reason that we need to have this done is for mainly legal purposes. To stay with, it really doesn't make sense to have multiple zones on one property. And I don't know if anyone realized that. I know that there were a lot of concerns about this. A lot of things were put out in the community as to why we wanted to have the property rezoned. We do have planned to have the addition done. This upper part's gonna mainly be administrative offices. So that will help with our administrative staff right now. Right now, there are no current plans for the Seegers property. But since it's under one ownership or under one management, we were gonna have everything rezoned at this time. I don't think that, having two different sets of codes to work with is really something that anybody would want to deal with. And like I said, I'm not sure if anybody's aware of that, but the impact that we would have with being able to have a smooth transition with this addition for the community itself is I think, a great benefit that we need.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're trying to do something good for the community. Now,
Wait a minute.
And we'd be glad to, whatever we can do to assuage any concerns, we'll be happy to. The intent is not to cause discord or problems for anybody. We've been here since 1974. Many of you guys have been here longer than that. We take the history and the heritage of Darlington seriously. We want to promote that. Maybe we have different ways of doing that. Maybe we see things differently, but I don't see any reason why we can't come together and try to make this happen for the good of all. That's really all I have.
Thank you. Now we have,
I'd like to thank the city council for allowing me to speak tonight. I own the property that is the furthest to my right, I guess be y'all's left, just past Seeger's Court. And that home has been there for 125 years. And I cannot help but think that this property being rezoned core commercial, if something were to happen to Genesis Healthcare, God forbid, they could put a strip club on that property, or a garage that takes care of automobiles. And the fact that it allows the owner of that property to go right up to the property line, my property line, there's no buffer between me and your property. I've got nothing against healthcare. I just got a lot of reservations about having it right next door to me. My property value will go down. There's no doubt. Nobody's going to want something like that, regardless of how nice it is. It looks good, but they're not going to want that next door to their home. I don't think anybody in here would like for that to be next door to their home. At any rate, I feel we need to make one announcement that the notification for this proposal was to be 15 days before the hearing this meeting. My wife and I went down Oak Street and there was not one notification sign out there. There was only one notification sign and it was on the Seeger's Court property. We took pictures of it, so that needs to be made. Y'all need to be aware of that because it could raise an issue down the road. At any rate, thank you, appreciate it. Hope you vote our way.
Mr. Walter Langley.
Yes. Can you hear me back here? Because I want everybody to hear my little comment. I'll come up there. I want you all to hear. If you can't hear, I'm going to do something about it. I have written my remarks because to me they're important. My concerns here as y'all are important. My name is Walter Langley.
Sorry, we can't.
I live
Excuse me,
on
Mr.
137.
Langley.
Can you hear me? Wait a minute. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now? Howard, you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. I wrote out my remarks because I wanted to be sure I said what I meant. My name is Walter Langley again. I live on 137 North Street, about a half a block from where all this activity is. I enjoy living here. This is my home, as it is with all of these people surrounding me here this evening. Darlington is steeped in progressive history. It is a good place to live, raise a family, and work. And my desire is for it to continue to be just that. This being said then, I wish to make a few remarks concerning these two requests for zoning change. The request is for the current designation on each of the properties, as has already been said, to be changed to core commercial. This allows wall-to-wall, street-to-street development in any manner or use the owner may have, and it goes with the property and not with the owner. In my opinion, any property given this designation, as important as it is, must be given careful review as to purpose and intended use prior to the designation. And it should be given in something other than an oral presentation. It should be something we can read. The ones that are filed now are very, very weak, as I'll tell you about in a minute or two. As to so in the case here, the written request shows no tangible reason or purpose that is given. In one instance, the reason given is part of the property is already in violation of code. That don't sound too good. In the other, the only reason given is that it'll assist in parking. Once again, in my opinion, both reasons tell us nothing about the real reason or the use. Members of council, in view of the fact that we have elected you to act for us in our best interest and not that of outside organizations, my plea to you is to deny these zoning changes. And I thank you for hearing me.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, Howard, Council, and Gloria. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Jamie Lathan. I live at 141 Oak Street, which is a designated historical site. On Oak Street, there's also a number of historical homes. I moved to Darlington almost 10 years ago this month. I grew up in Hartsville, having decided to move back to South Carolina. Before I made that decision, I had an opportunity to look at neighborhoods in at least 7 or 8 states. When I decided on South Carolina, I actually looked in my hometown in Hartsville. But there was no place in Hartsville like Oak Street. I made a very conscious decision to plant my roots here in Darlington, South Carolina, and I affirmed that I would be a strong and supportive resident and support my community. And I hope I have done that and done that well. At least that has been my objectives. I urge you, Councilman Sears, who has been a very strong and supportive councilman of all your constituents in your ward, to vote no on this zoning change. I urge you, Councilman Coleman, who is my new councilman given the rezoning, to vote no for these zoning changes. Councilwoman Bruce, Councilman Gardner, as representatives of all the citizens of Darlington, I strongly urge you to vote no on this zoning change. Councilman Millings, I understand you have to abstain for specific reasons. Councilman Reed, although you are not in your ward, I also ask for your support of our entire community. This really does affect all of the citizens in this area. I understand you have a duty to look at corporate citizens, but this is one corporate citizen. Their headquarters are not here. The majority of their employees do not live here. It's my understanding their cash flow is over 20 million plus. for a nonprofit, so I think they have the financial resources to locate and grow in any area they choose, whether it's in Darlington or outside Darlington. I acknowledge the fact that they have said they've done an impact study. I would strongly urge that a needs assessment should be done. No one, to my knowledge, has polled the residents in this community. Certainly no one has polled me. No one has inquired specifically of our needs in this community. We cannot simply do an impact study to see what will impact the business, but with a zoning change like this, we should certainly do a needs assessment to see what will impact the residents of an affected community. If there's any zoning change that should be done here, other than remaining the existing zoning change, it should be to include Oak Street and the surrounding areas in a historic district. Because when you look at the vast majority of residents there, that's what it represents. Residents of this community who have been here for decades, upon decades in terms of their family and generations before them. It would be a travesty, as my neighbors have already stated, to rezone this as core commercial and open us to live around heaven knows what. Please, I beseech you to make the proper decision and to take the proper vote to support your constituents who reside here in Darlington. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Latham. Barry Clark.
Barry?
Mayor, city council members, thank you for allowing me to speak. My wife Janet and I, as well as my two girls, Georgia and Anna Lee, live at 210 Cashua Street, a property that we sought out. We looked in much like Miss Janie, we looked in a number of different communities, simply looking for a house that we could love and renovate. And I believe that we came in with a plan, and you graciously, the building people graciously allowed us to execute that plan and work to preserve the house that we currently live in. We've seen the property of PD Healthcare / Genesis Healthcare grow from a doctor's office with minimal traffic or less traffic to now a significant healthcare facility, corporate healthcare facility, which is expanded far beyond its means. We've seen them go to a full healthcare facility and pharmacy. And while I applaud their efforts for growth, I'm quite concerned about their current request to become core commercial. This zoning request would essentially destroy the concept of the current zoning, which is that of transition of core commercial city square to residential historic neighborhoods, as has been echoed by other people speaking before me. By making it core commercial, they erase the setbacks and restrictions, particularly signing restrictions. I believe it's come before the council before regarding their signing and the distraction that a brightly lit LED sign on Cashua Street would cause. Furthermore, with going core commercial, they essentially double the sign that you've already voted down. They're allowed to double and make a sign twice as big as the one that you so graciously said would create a distraction and cause problems. As you have noticed, there's no signage thus far that's appeared, and I believe that this effort for zoning change is an end run around your previous rule, which would allow them to essentially perform any activity on that lot without setback or restriction to include a brightly lit sign. My larger concern is that their current business plan and model is simply trying to extract maximum profit with minimal input. I realize that they state that they are a nonprofit, but as noted, if you look at their financials, someone's making a lot of money, bottom line. And while I'm not opposed to making money, I am opposed to using our community in such a way to do that on a property that wasn't designed to do what they're quite simply trying to do. By opening up core commercial in this way, it allows for a degradation and further erosion of the concept of residential communities, and more to the point, historic residential communities, which is truly one of the beauties of Darlington, and that Darlington has to offer. And that's why, in part, why we came. I'm quite concerned as well for Mr. Rennie Johnson. Rennie basically gets cubbyhole. I mean, I can't even begin to say how unfair that is to this very kind gentleman. But it also greatly impacts the people on Oak Street, the Dartons, our family. Brian Hobbs, who just did a beautiful job of renovation of a house. We've made significant investments in our community, and we've tried our best to preserve and ensure the heritage that is so rich here in Darlington. I implore you not to allow this. Please do not allow commercial interests to overcome your sense of pride and concern for and preservation of our historic community. Their expansion plans go far outside the current zoning regulations. And if you look currently, what they've done goes far outside even the current zoning, and I'm not aware of the variances allowed. None of those variances were ever discussed, as far as I know, in terms of their plans for putting in a pharmacy. They're running a retail pharmacy out of their office. And there was no setback. I mean, they did not adhere to the setbacks that are in the current zoning for residential commercial zoning. Now, if they got a variance for that, I'd like to see it, but there was no discussion of it, as far as I know. It just simply got put up. Therefore, I simply respectfully request that you block this attempt and work with Genesis and PD Healthcare to find a suitable location. I believe that their current location is neither acceptable nor suitable for the plans that they have. And we have plenty of property that could be built on and that is core commercial. Please don't change what we have now.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson.
Honorable Mayor and Honorable Council, if you would permit me 30 seconds here at the beginning. In light of the way Auburn played last Saturday afternoon, I simply say War Eagle. Now, a word or two. I can add nothing to what they have already said. I do see, I think, a win-win situation for everybody involved. If PD Healthcare would simply buy the buildings on the square that belong to Carolina Bank, take this beautiful building right here and put on the square in Darlington. You have parking back behind that already there. You have parking lot over there that was a music company that you could have, and it would be an asset to the community and on the public square. Council would appreciate it, I'm sure. They would not have to have a vote. It would serve your purpose just as well on the square as it is there, and it would certainly please most of the people in this room if you would do that. Therefore, I, like the ones before me, request that council please deny the zoning request. And if you are in this room at this time or in the hall and you oppose the zoning request, will you please stand? Mayor, Mr. Council, we rest our case.
Wow. Any council comments?
I'll start off. I'm questioning voting this down, but I want to make the case that Darlington's future vitality is at stake. These continued oppositions to investments and growth for our city is something that we can't continue to sustain. I got on council to bring back the quality of life of this town that I see disappearing, but I can't do that if we can't accept our city's face changing in some ways. The cities of the 1950s and 80s that I grew up and y'all grew up with, it's not here anymore. We have to figure out a vision for our Darlington and what growth we want for our future. We are very fortunate enough to get these investment opportunities, but we need to learn how to cultivate these in a way that we can all get along and understand and value. Voting down change after change that these investors bring to us is not going to do that. It's going to stifle our investment opportunities in the future, and future investors just aren't going to come to Darlington. They're going to go to other places, and that's something we can't continue to do. We can't afford to do it. Genesis, I want to thank you for your continued investment in this community. I hope that continues. We have some credit opportunities that I would love to extend to you and work with y'all with. There's other buildings within the city that I think we can go forward with, and hopefully y'all would be interested in. And I'm sorry that I'm going to have to vote against this. Our community obviously Our community is not interested in this at this point in their neighborhood. And I'm sorry for that in a way. But I hope in the future that we can figure out a way to grow together. And please don't give up on our town. Thank you for everything you've already done.
I want to appreciate Genesis for the presentation and the information that was shared with us tonight. Let me also thank you for what you've already done in the community and what you are seeking to do. On the flip side of that, I want to say to the citizens that I heard you tonight. Not only did I hear you tonight, I listened to you through your letters that I received in the mail. I feel your concern. I understand the concern. And I think Mr. Johnson said it best at the end. If we look at this, it can be a win-win for both us as a community, the citizens in that area, and for Genesis. And if we go back and look at it as a council, what can we do to offer Genesis from a standpoint of tax break or whatever we can do, some incentive to keep you here, but find some other property to be able to build that beautiful building. I, along with Mr. Johnson, would love to see that on the square. That is a beautiful building. That would be a beautiful site on our square, and we all would be happy for that. I have to agree with Councilman Gardner in light of the comments that was made tonight, the letters that was sent, and the letters that was read by me. I have to stand in support of the citizens.
Thank you. My name is Cole Buchanan, and my views are the same views that Councilman Brown, Brian, and Gardner and Bruce. I thank GD Healthcare for what they've already done, and I know that we can find a way that you can have a place in the city of Darlington. Another thing, I think that we need to preserve our historical districts in the city. And if we do that, I mean, we can't lose our values of our city. So I will have to vote no, along with Bruce and Gardner. Thank you so much.
I appreciate what Genesis has done. And I represent an area where you give them the utmost service, other than them coming to you, you come out to them. And just like this group has been here, so have my constituents indicated to me what Genesis means to them. And at this point, I will not ignore that, because they voted for me. I am torn. I am torn because one of my closest friends, I committed to her, but I also committed to my family. So I'm torn. I have not quite made the decision as to where this vote will go. But I wanted to be able to express what Genesis has done for the constituents of the ward that I represent, and want that to continue, and also want to make the offer. I know that it also will be a win-win for me if you move it to Ward 2. We got plenty, plenty properties. We would welcome it. It's beautiful. It would add to our property. It would raise it. So consider that as well. Thank you.
Well, let me speak. I don't have a vote on this, and it's obvious how the vote is going to be cast. But I want the citizens of Darlington to understand something. Charleston would not be Charleston if it took a position that it opposed everything that took place in Charleston. It coexists with governmental buildings, with commercial buildings, all taking place in residential neighborhoods. They've learned to blend and work together. Columbia has done the same. The idea of telling a corporate entity, take your money and buy something on the square, I think is short-sighted. Take your corporate money and go somewhere else is short-sighted. Can you imagine what it would be if Genesis said, okay, we are going to close this facility and we're going to operate nothing out of it? What would the city of Darlington then be facing if that was the position that was taken every time something came forward? So while I don't vote on this, we know what the outcome's going to be. You need to understand that as the city moves forward, it's got to have some changes. You either move forward or you go backwards. If you try to tread water all your life, you're going to end up drowning. You've got to take an opportunity when it comes to you and build on it. So regardless of what the outcome is here, I think we need to understand the position that Darlington finds itself in. And where are we going to go? Are we going to enhance the overall growth and economic well-being of the citizens in this town? Or are we simply going to say, I want what I want and nothing else? So I just understand where everybody is coming from, but I understand it's a delicate rope and line that is being walked by the citizens of Darlington and by council as it tries to bring things that will benefit the community while at the same time trying to recognize concerns that others in the community have. Obviously, there may be 100 people here tonight who are perhaps opposed to what's taking place. There may be 500 people, there may be 1,000 people that are living in Ms. Reed's ward that would love to have an expansion, whether it be in pediatric services or other things. So just understand that there's always more than one way to look at something, and as this goes on, it's going to continue to come up, and at certain points in time, the way the city is originally constructed, it is just difficult to allow businesses to expand without going somewhat into historic neighborhoods. You've got
Yeah, put it out your house.
I would be glad to have you by my house. I'm not voting on this. I'm not speaking exactly to this particular issue. But I'm just saying there's more than one aside more than one thing to consider, as council has to consider how it's going to proceed on issues that come forward. So not to hurt anybody's feelings, I just want everybody to understand we've got to be taking global views as well as the view for particular interest. But thank you for your concern and your appreciation and your coming forward tonight.
Mr. Severs?
I don't know that I can add anything to what's already been said tonight. I came into the meeting thinking that we could possibly mitigate this thing, compromise by possibly giving them the core commercial on the Oak Street to the end of their property and then leaving the parking lot and the rest of the property as office residential. But I see by the frown and the expressions on people's faces that maybe that is not an option. So that's my case.
How do you vote?
They're not voting.
Voted yet.
Okay, my time. I'm torn. I respect both sides. But what I wish I could do was take all the residents and push them kind of back, and that would leave Genesis kind of by itself, and then by itself, it could expand. But that's not possible. We know that. It's a crowded, congested area, two-lane street both ways. There's just not enough room. And I respect the residents, because if I was living there, I would think the same way. I live in another neighborhood, but I respect your neighborhood. I respect very much on what Genesis has to offer. I wish that they could take the Belts building and put a parking garage up under it and build up 5 stories to accommodate it all. But that's not in your plans. With this many residents sitting out here in the audience, I'm not afraid to look in your eyes. That's not my problem. When things happened in my neighborhood some time ago, I wanted to purchase a piece of land to put a beauty salon. I didn't go talk to anybody, but I knew what core commercial was. And because the business that I wanted to buy, purchase, it had been closed for a year. And by being closed for a year, I had to have it rezoned. Me, myself, by myself, nobody else. When Mr. Ward told me what I had to do, I went out and I looked. And I knew the problem that we had with the liquor store. And what problems we had closing the liquor store. And if I had done that, I knew the neighbors would have done it for me. But my heart was not in it to open up the can of worms to start and make the area be commercial. So I chose not to do it. So I simply understand. And at this time, I would have to say, you can't be lukewarm or cold. I would have to say that I would have to go with the citizens. Darlington needs to grow very much so, as Mr. Gardner said. But I don't know, that's not the right way for it to grow. I would hope that I could twinkle and find a nice piece of property so you can put that gorgeous building on it. And I do hope that you would find another area to put that gorgeous building, and don't leave us, please. Don't leave us. I mean, it's kind of close up in there. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes. There's nothing I feel what I've heard tonight to say that they are against you building the building. It's just where you put it. And if there are no other comments from the council, I'll get a motion that we adjourn. 5-minute break. We adjourn and then come back for regular council. We're over a little bit, but we wanted to respect you and give you time to say what you had to say, okay? We thank you.